This is Nerd News Cafe. Stir it up with Matt, Landon, and Justin.
Get ready to stir it up. It's round 42, and I am jacked up, ready to go. I've been injecting Pixie Sticks and Mountain Dews into my eyelids all day, just waiting for this moment. This is not Matt.
This is Justin.
And I'm Hollywood's new beast, Landon Down.
You worked it out. You did
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, I come bearing good news, everybody. They've removed me from the equation, so this deal can still continue on. So it might work out for everybody, except me.
I just want to say, if I think that if we get some news in the next couple of days that Disney and 20th Century Fox have reached a deal and Disney makes this purchase, I think we have you to thank. So I'm putting that out there now.
I will definitely take any kudos and accolades anybody wants to pass along to me. Even if they're unwarranted, I will still take them because I love to get compliments. Somebody called me a good boy.
Well, I'll also thank Obama while I'm at it. But
wait, I thought we were supposed to blame Obama.
You know, it's one of those ironic thank Obama things. It could end up that way. I mean, you never know how this merger will go. But yeah, man, welcome back. We missed you on Tuesday. Happy to have you with us. Of course, Matt is out today. Maybe he's working on some other merger or acquisition that has yet to be announced.
Yeah, Matt actually wanted me to keep this on the DL, but I feel comfortable telling you and our listeners about it. Matt is trying to work the merger of Star Trek and HR Puffin stuff. So everybody look out for that. It's going to, like you thought the Kelvin universe was weird. It's going to get like you just dropped acid weird here in a second.
That could get a little weird, a little wild.
I've always said Star Trek needs way more Muppets in it. So, you know, they're not Muppets, but they're puppets. So, I mean, take the good, you take the bad.
You know, it seems like Star Wars is going that direction. So if maybe Star Trek will follow suit.
I do love the fact that our listeners, by the way, if you have any Porg-related memes you want to throw at us,
keep them out of my face.
News _ Cafe, and also the Croots. He loves them.
I don't want to see that garbage, Eric.
See, I do want to see them. So, Eric, please continue.
Yeah, and then today, Mark Hamill decided, because one of his favorite things to do is troll all of the fans up until the movie comes out. So he posted a ton of porgs out there today. And it basically, I can't remember exactly what his tweet said, but something to the effect of, I've seen people comparing the porgs to the Ewoks, but you all just have no idea how integral they are going to be to the plot of this movie. I'm like, Mark Hamill, you shut your dirty mouth. You will be the last Jedi if I have something to say about it.
Or maybe this is all an elaborate Jedi mind trick.
It could be, but gosh, freaking porgs! Damn you, porgs!
I am curious, like. After your stance on the porgs, I am very interested to see how much of the movie is going to contain the porgs and how integral they are going to be to the plot. I'm obviously looking forward to seeing the movie, but in the back of my mind, that is also something I'm very interested and wanted to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm very interested. I'm holding out hope that it's a very small percentage of the movie that they show up in and they have absolutely no effect on any outcome of any plot point. That they're just there to be cute and sell a few plushies. That's what I hope that they're for. And you know what? I can't hate on Star Wars for doing that if that's what they're doing. But please, please, please don't make it like if it weren't for the porgs, you know, if it weren't for my horse, I wouldn't have spent those 2 years in college. I don't need a porg story like that, but
well,
anyway.
That's actually going to be the next spinoff, Star Wars, a porg story.
Porg story, I know. You know, all this porg talk. I know we do this on Tuesday, but I did want to share. We're recording. This is going to be a fresh, hot episode when it comes out on Thursday because we're recording midweek. It is nighttime. I am enjoying an adult beverage tonight.
Ah, you too.
Yes, I have a Breckenridge Brewery Fine Colorado Ales Vanilla Porter, and it is delicious.
Ooh, that does sound good. And I'm generally not a porter person, but a vanilla porter, I think I could get behind that. It almost sounds like a dessert beer.
It kind of is. I mean, porters, you're not going to chug a porter.
Exactly. Or rather, you shouldn't chug a porter.
You should not chug a porter.
You will have a bad time.
You will. I like them. They're good savoring beers, I would say. And this one's tasty. I like a few of these that are similar to this. Like I like a good Highland has a black mocha porter that I really like. And I've had a few coffee, like porters, coffee stouts, those sort of things. And they all kind of, even this one, the vanilla porter, it reminds me of kind of like a coffee drink just because it has that bitterness to it, but a little sweet on top. So, yeah, I'm down with that. And I've said it before. I like my beers just like I like my women, dark and strong. I don't know where I'm going with this. No,
I was gonna say.
No, I was gonna say. It took a turn in my mind. What I wanted to say is I like my beers like you don't need to be able to see through them, and you can cut them with a freaking knife or something. Yeah, that's a good beer.
Yeah, you probably don't want to say that's how you like your women.
No.
Then you'll probably be entered on some sort of like watch list.
Yeah, now is not the time to be trying to go up against the women. They are speaking up lately, and good for them, by the way.
Yeah,
we haven't really said anything about this, and I kind of feel like we probably should say a little, just because I think over the last couple of weeks, all the stories that have come out, women speaking up, and I'm really happy that they feel like they have that women feel like they can come out and speak up for themselves right now. I don't think anybody should ever have to put up with the kind of treatment that a lot of these women have described in their stories and not be able to speak up and say something and hold people accountable. To me, it's such a shame that, and I guess call me naive, I don't think I had any idea how pervasive this kind of treatment was to women in the entertainment industry, and how it was really just the culture of it, and they just had to put up with it. And I'm at this point, I mean, I want more stories to come out. I want every woman who's had to put up with something like this, or even men put up with it too. Men have been treated, sexually assaulted, and there have been issues, but women more so have really had their voices silenced. And I guess I just want to say that it's shocking and upsetting to me how much of this has gone on for so long, and how many people have taken power over people because they were in some sort of whether it be a position of fame or a position of like decision making or something like that. And I'm almost at a bit of a loss for words to say the kinds of things that I want to say about it, other than to say that I definitely stand on the side of the women who are speaking up, and I hope that we can really change the culture that not just in the entertainment industry, but in what has been a man-driven world for a very long time.
Absolutely. I agree with 100% of everything you just said. And maybe this does play to the naivety you talked of, even a little bit to me. We always heard stories like the Brett Ratner story with Olivia Munn. I remember she talked about that when her book came out a few years ago, but just the scale and the magnitude of all of this stuff that is going on, like women on behalf of men, I am so sorry that you've had to put up with this bullshit, and sorry on the edit. I know we're going late. I'm going to try and keep those few and far between, but it's just so disappointing that these women have had to go through this, and I mean, like, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say except we as men should and have to do better going forward.
That's right. Agreed. All right. Well, let's move on to the fun. But I did feel like, I know we're kind of a little fun time nerd culture roundup, but every now and then I feel like we should take a step back, and if there's something going on in the world that we are taking part in, that we should really probably acknowledge that. So that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely. When we do like to have fun, but when the real world rears its ugly head into our little fun circle of comic books and video games and Star Wars and Treks, we do need to acknowledge it and talk about it.
Yep. All right. So let us kick things off. We're going to go a little bit out of format today. I mean, it'll be somewhat formatty, just in honor of Maddie not being here. It'll be a little for Maddie because we're going to talk some comic news, and we'll talk some gaming and streaming news, but it's just going to be a little more headliney because there've been some big ticket items that have really come out over the last week, and we didn't even have a chance to touch on them on Tuesday. So held a few things because we felt like they really fit better for the categories that we like to bring up on the Thursday show. So we're going to bring them up today. So, Landon, I'm going to ask you to kick us off. Let's talk about the comic book news that shook the world last week when we heard that Brian Michael Bendis has signed an exclusive deal to now be solely creating comics in the DC universe.
Yeah, that was a massive comic book move. Brian Michael Bendis has been exclusively, or rather is most well known for his work on Marvel, and he's responsible for getting me back into comics with his Ultimate Spider-Man book. I was out of comics at the time, and just word of mouth, I had so many people tell me, I think you'd really like Ultimate Spider-Man, and just one day I sat down and started reading it, and boom, I was hooked immediately. And from there, he was elevated from Ultimate Spider-Man to the New Avengers, where he introduced not only Spider-Man and Wolverine to the Avengers, which is kind of a big deal because, well, more so in Spider-Man's case, he was always that loner character, but he elevated characters like Luke Cage and Iron Fist to like top level characters to stand shoulder to shoulder, face to face with, Tony Stark and Captain America. And his run on Daredevil was great. And Marvel really tapped in on him to do these big epic crossovers. I mean, he was responsible for House of M, which I still think holds up. It's like, I'm a big fan of the What If comic book series, and House of M, I feel like, is the best what if story they've ever told. He was responsible for Secret Invasion as well, which hit or miss. I mean, I liked what they were doing. Some of it was kind of, little through the looking glass, and anytime you deal with Skrulls, it's going to get a little bit weird. But I mean, even his work outside of Marvel, like he's responsible for Powers, which is kind of a noir detective superhero story. I know Sony adapted it to a show on the PlayStation Network to varying degrees of success, but I mean, this is massive for DC. I'm super excited to see what Bendis can do on the other side of the aisle with characters like, The Flash, Martian Manhunter, heck, even Elongated Man. I'm super excited to see what Bendis can do with DC's cast of characters now.
Yeah, and I would agree with what you're saying, because I think that, Marvel has been, let's say, they've had a leg up on DC for a little while now, and when it comes to the major comics that have hit the shelves in the last 10 years, as well as the movies. And I think this was a brilliant move by DC to get right down to the foundation of what makes them a comic book company. Let's get some of this great original content in the books, and then that's just going to breed more success for the movies, the TV shows. I mean, we've seen. I want to give him credit, because one of the things I found out about Brian Michael Bendis was that he created Jessica Jones. I wasn't aware of that until I started doing some research on him, and so he created an interesting character with a lot of depth, something that had a really interesting feel to it, that bred a amazing Netflix show that we wouldn't have had the Defenders that we have today if it weren't for Brian Michael Bendis. So now you put that kind of creative talent and that kind of a force over in the DC universe, and just think, what are the possibilities there? He might bring a whole new property, a whole new concept into the DC world that we haven't seen. But the other thing he could do, just like you said, is take characters that we're already familiar with and really show them to us in a new light, or bring them into a crossover book or whatever it may be, and start to really build more interest. So I just think that for DC, this is a really exciting thing. It's like it's kind of like them
hiring John Gruden.
Hiring John Gruden to run the program. Hashtag groomers.
Yep, hashtag groomers.
But no, it's like they're saying, I think they realize that they've got to make some big splashes in order to really level the playing field and start to compete at the highest level with Marvel. And I think this is the first step in doing that. So that's awesome. And
I am curious because I don't know if I want to say the most well-known book he's been associated with recently was All New X-Men. So I'm kind of curious to see what Marvel is going to do with All New X-Men. I mean, it's not unheard of for writers to leave books to go work on different books, or heck, even leave the company that this book is being published by. So I am curious to see what All New X-Men is going to pivot to, or heck, they might have already pivoted away from Bendis because they caught rumblings that this might be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, it's possible, and I'm not up on the new X-Men, so I couldn't say, but you know, it's definitely, you're not going to have somebody just step in and take over and not skip a beat. You know, it'd be unusual for that to happen.
Oh, I'm actually seeing Dennis Hopeless has taken over for All New X-Men. But again, you talk about him not only creating characters like Jessica Jones and giving us this character that is now very integral in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He also introduced Miles Morales, my boy, the new Spider-Man. And even talking on the All New X-Men, he had the balls to time travel the original teen X-Men into current time. I mean, who would have thought that would have been a good idea? And it turned out to be a really entertaining story arc and a book.
See, I didn't realize he was responsible for that either. So the X-Men Blue that I enjoy, he's really responsible for that even happening. So that's amazing. So yeah, really interesting to see. Like, so, you know, here's something else to think about now. How does Marvel respond? You know, what will they do in kind to try to keep up with the DC here and not let them get a step ahead?
To counterpunch. Because, I mean, they I think DC, by signing Bendis to an exclusive deal, they have taken away a heavy hitter from Marvel. But, I mean, let's not act like Bendis was the only thing propping Marvel up. Marvel will survive. So
of course they will, but they're not going to – I don't think that they'll stand pat, you know, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you on that.
So we'll see how it goes. Really exciting stuff. You know, I think maybe for Comic Book Corner in the future, whenever Bendis kind of gets his feet under him and starts putting out some DC books, those would be some interesting things for me to bring to the table and talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's going on there.
Has it been announced what he's going to be working on, or is it just he's coming to DC, period?
For now, I think it's just that he's coming to DC, period, because the news that he was going over, like his tweets to confirm that all this was true, was just back a week ago on November 7th. So,
okay, all right,
yeah, and then of course, I was just looking through. You've got a ton of Marvel creatives, artists, writers, kind of wishing him well, but then on the DC side, Scott Snyder saying, getting to work alongside Brian Bendis is yet another comic dream realized. Brian, you're going to slay. Cannot wait. So that's cool. I'd like to see those two paired up for sure.
Absolutely. And that's the other part that I didn't even really consider. It's going to be fun to see what characters Bendis is paired up with. But from a creative standpoint, I'm excited to see what artists and what other writers he's going to team up with to bring us these stories.
Yep. Fun stuff.
Absolutely. And I think it's really cool that they have such a creative mind who's going to look at all the DC universe with a different look as opposed to everybody else who's in there. Because it's like, I don't know if Bendis is going to come in and, you know, remake the wheel, but at the same time, somebody who hasn't been in pocket with DC, they're going to be looking at this at different angles than the people who have been, you know, entrenched with DC for the past decade.
Absolutely. You got to get the new blood in there.
Absolutely. Keep it fresh.
Fresh perspective. Yeah. All right. So that'll be our comic book corner portion for the day. Now let's get into some hot and streamy kind of content. First, one of the things we held off on was a discussion on Disney's price for their price point for their streaming service. I don't know that they've come out and actually said what it's going to be, but what they did announce, Bob Iger actually mentioned that Disney's streaming service will be priced substantially below the Netflix price. First of all, that makes total sense because it's just one company, right? Netflix is rounding up a bunch of different companies, not only its own content, but it's bringing content from a ton of different production companies. Disney would be all by itself. So I don't think that maybe they would argue that they could justify charging you $11 a month because they're going to have all the Marvel shows now plus Star Wars content. And the movies, which, by the way, one of the other things that's being developed is a live-action Star Wars series that'll be on the streaming service. Yeah. I honestly don't see how I can get out of signing up for this, by the way. I think they
That's
pretty
what
much...
Disney is counting on. They're like, we know we have your money, dummy. Just go ahead and sign up.
Yeah,
Just
well,
do it.
but that makes it even more interesting that they're like, it's going to be substantially less than $10.99. So I'm thinking $6 a month. I would do $6 a month for Disney service.
Absolutely, and I'm on somewhat of a tight budget, but I do think I could find a couple days where I don't buy a $2 sandwich or whatever, just so I can have access to this streaming stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that once the Disney streaming service kicks off in 2019, do you think that there will be people who start to make the decision that maybe they don't need Netflix so much because they've got HBO Go that they're paying for, they've got Disney they're paying for, and maybe, I don't know, let's say for fun, CBS All Access, things like that. And do you think that Netflix is going to take a hit when this happens?
I definitely think that Netflix is going to take a hit by losing stuff like the Marvel Netflix shows, because, I mean, say what you will about Iron Fist, but with the exception of that, every one of those series is critically acclaimed. They draw in big audiences. So I do think they are going to take a hit there. Obviously, losing the streaming rights to the Marvel movies, it's also going to, take away some eyeballs from that. But at the same time, I don't think this is going to be the sky is falling when it comes to Netflix, because Netflix is the brand name recognition that like Coke is to cola or Band-Aid is to sticky adhesive. Like when you think streaming, Netflix is the name you think of.
Yeah, it is almost like Post-it level, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because they've shot up to that kind of a level of prominence in what, 10 years? And they've become such a household name. But as we know, they have budget issues right now.
They really do.
So they can't afford to lose a lot of subscriptions. So it'll be interesting to see maybe what they do to try to counterbalance this a little bit. You're still going to get your Netflix content. You've got at least another couple seasons of Stranger Things coming out. So there's going to be good stuff. But another interesting point, as we were talking about earlier, some of the people that have been implicated through the women who have spoken out have lost their jobs. Not only have they lost their jobs, projects have been canceled because of some of the news that has come out. That has impacted Netflix, because I think I heard of 2 different Netflix movies that were being made that production stopped on, that were in like the late stages.
Wow.
And as we know, Netflix is willing to throw money at things. So I'm sure that it was a nice chunk of change that they're just kind of flushing down the toilet. Good on Netflix for doing that, but at the same time, ouch, this is a bad time for that to happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a great move by Netflix to take this hardline stance against sexual assault and just actually like straight up being a skeezy a-hole. But at the same time, that is still going to impact the bottom line.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes it does pay to take a stand.
It does. They're doing the right thing. It's just ouch for now. That was just money that they basically set on fire, Joker style, piled it up and
Some
burned
people
it.
just like to watch the world burn, Mr. Wayne.
So yeah, but I mean, so in 2019, when this streaming service launched, first of all, I hope they come up with a cool name for it, so I don't have to keep saying Disney streaming service.
They'll figure something out.
The D stream. Oh wait, that doesn't sound so good.
Yeah, I don't know. That has some questionable connotations. Maybe not PG.
But hopefully they'll come up with something catchier than that, and maybe not so risque. When this launches, I suspect that they'll probably have a few kind of launch titles that'll come along with it, and I bet one of them is going to be this Star Wars series. But there could be some other things, like maybe they hold off on one of the whether it be Daredevil, Jessica Jones, one of those series, and kick off a new season over there, or something like that. So there's going to be kind of some launch titles that come out with it. In order to get those early adoptions, the early sign-ons. And I'm going to be one of them. I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I will be in line and ready to go. And actually, one of the things I was thinking about is this is probably going to be a great opportunity for them to consolidate some of the things. Like right now, they've got like a Disney XD app that has Rebels on it, but it's not even DuckTales, but it's not even like all of Rebels. It's just current season and a few episodes. So maybe we actually get like all the Rebels content in one place. That would be great.
That right there would be enough for me to sign up to for this streaming service. And oh, by the way, you are going to get more Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and okay, maybe not Iron Fist, but if they can bring everything under one umbrella, that right, I mean, they're giving you pretty much everything you want.
Yep.
And I name checked it earlier. If like give me the option to just play all on the new DuckTales, because it's like I've only seen a handful and I really like what I see, but guess what? My cable package doesn't have Disney XD.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. It'd be your DuckTales option. So anyway, again, this is one of those things where it's big news, but we're going to have to kind of wait and see what the implications are. But yeah, good stuff on the horizon. And imagine what happens if the merger takes place, you know, and assuming that happens prior to Disney launching its streaming service. And then we have the X-Men brought back into the family, and we can start maybe getting some really cool X-Men streaming series or something. I don't know. I'd
be okay with that.
I'm just spitballing over here, man. But I mean,
heck, just throw up the '90s X-Men animated show streaming.
Well, it's out there.
I'm totally fine with that.
Pretty sure it's on Hulu right now, but you can watch that. It's out somewhere.
Well, that's good to know. But it's like, oh, sweet, that's on Hulu. It's like, once this comes out, how many streaming services are we going to be signed up for every month?
All of them. Well,
I made the joke. Eventually, people are going to be like, you know what's going to save money? Signing up for cable.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're exactly right. But you could kind of look at it like, what has everybody always wanted from a cable package? A la carte. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's really what you're getting now. Because you can go sign up for all the Disney content. All right, that's $6 a month. You go sign up for ESPN. That's I don't know how much because I don't have like the ESPN package, but I assume it'd be like what $10 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. If you're a wrestling dork, you sign up for the WWE Network. That's $10 a month.
Yeah. So essentially, you are building your own cable package, and you know you're going to have a max budget. That's something we kind of put out there previously. Like if you were playing with a budget of like $50, what would you sign up for? So. I think we're getting to that organically. It'll be. Another thing I want to wait and see, or I'm excited to see, is how do cable companies start to respond to this? Because, you know, one of the things that you heard for years was that cord cutters weren't really affecting the cable industry. It was fake news.
Fake news. Everybody loves the cable, especially the Fox News. They have real news, unlike that fake CNN.
Well. I think this story is changing. I think the narrative is changing, and I think now here in 2017 that I think that people are paying attention to cable cutters now. And
they have to be. I mean, like that number is only growing and growing and growing, especially when all these studios and production houses are saying, "Hey, do you want our content, but you don't want to pay your Comcast or your Time Warner or whatever, like some exorbitant fee?" Hey, if you have internet and you know how to make a login, we got your hookup.
Yep. And we'll give you exactly what you want. You don't have to go pay $150 or however much for your everything cable package so you can get Disney XD. So, yeah. Interesting times we're living in, my friends. Interesting times.
Entertainment on demand all the time.
Exactly. Save your money from all your EA microtransactions and sign up.
That feels like a segue.
It might be. It might be where we're headed because guess what, guys? Huge video game title launching this week. You guessed it. Battlefront 2, November 17th. It is upon us, and I am so excited. You know, my excitement got kind of cooled off a little bit as we started to hear some of the news this week about... well, if you're not ready to put skin in the game, you might be a little bit behind those who are willing to throw down a few bones here and there.
And that's after you drop the $59.99 suggested retail price to just get the game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, if you didn't go broke doing that, You have an opportunity to get ahead of your competitors by maybe throwing down a few more dollars. Oh, you want access to Darth Vader? Yeah, you can do that. How much you got in your wallet? Well, maybe you don't have that much. That's okay. Don't worry. You can get there organically.
Yeah, you can put the grind in. Do
But-
you want a second full-time job? Because that's what it's going to take you.
Wait, how
I mean,
long will it take me?
40 hours. That
40
was the-
hours.
40 hours. You know that thing you do Monday through Friday probably, or you might have a non-traditional schedule. That thing that you put in that amount of hours so you get benefits for your family. Yeah. They want you to put in that much time to unlock Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Yeah, initially, that is what the estimates from the people who were playing the early access and some of the open beta. That's the number that they crunched and said it'll roughly take you 40 hours a piece for each character to unlock that. And I think rightfully so. The internet said, WTF, what's going on? Especially in a game like Battlefront 2, where one of the big selling points is you get to play the movie. You get to play as your favorite character. You get to be Luke. You get to be Chewie. You get to be Emperor Palpatine. You get to be Darth Maul. Like you get to be these iconic characters and play in these iconic settings. And that it's a bummer that it was initially set that way, but much to EA's credit, like they did with Battlefront 1, where everybody was saying we want more content, especially a single-player aspect, it seems to be that EA is once again listening to the consumer, because Kotaku is now reporting after what was a really bad 72, 48-hour period where just Battlefront was getting killed on every aspect online. It actually set a record for the most downvoted post in Reddit history. So that's something to be proud of, I guess.
Way to
But
go, Reddit Army.
I know you did it, bots. Good on you. They've reduced the in-game credit cost of characters like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker from 60,000 to 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a massive drop. And then the next tier down, like I think I saw like characters like Han and Leia and Chewie and Boba Fett, they're going to be around the 5,000 in-game credit tier. And then some lesser characters are going to be around 1,000. So I do like the fact that EA has listened once again to the customers in this aspect, because if they didn't change this, I mean, this was setting up to be a very rocky launch. Like the internet was already ready to pounce on this game before it even came out.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking a real big game for EA as we learned more and more about this game, because we were just talking about how it really seemed like Battlefront 2 was responding to every one of the fans' criticisms from Battlefront 1, and so I love the fact that they have responded quickly to the outrage, and they've actually come out, and you mentioned the credit reduction to unlock the heroes. Basically, they've reduced the prices by 75%, which is huge. That's humongous. That's a going out of business sale. So,
but we don't think EA is going.
We don't think they're going out of business. But the thing is, they don't need negative press on this game, and so I love the fact. I mean, people spoke out. EA listened, and they came out and spoke directly to the fans, and they said. Listening and providing choices in how you play will always be our principle in Star Wars Battlefront 2. We want to ensure the game is balanced and fun, both today and for years into the future. So basically, they did this, and I expect them to continue to make tweaks to this game, kind of in the style that we see with games like, I know I always go to Blizzard references, but basically like Overwatch, World of Warcraft, they're always trying to tune things so that it's balanced and fair. And I think that it's the right move. And you want long-term playability. You want this game to have legs and last a while. And, oh, by the way, do you want people to buy it in the first place? Then you damn sure better make sure that you're not just making it to where it's going to be a game of the have and the have-nots. And it really seemed at first like it was going to be that way. So, If I'm kind of inferring maybe some time to grind here, if Luke and Darth were going to take me maybe 40 hours to be able to unlock, and they've been reduced by 75%, then maybe it only takes me 10 hours. That's reasonable. That's a reasonable pill to swallow.
I am absolutely okay with that. And Andrew on Twitter said he actually preferred the method that EA had before they reduced it, which I do not agree with. But he didn't. He used this as almost like fulfilling. Everybody wants instant gratification. And it's like, well, I mean, it's like this isn't really instant gratification. You still have to put the time into it. And it's like he gave the example. All right, well, you can grind 2 days every day for 3 weeks. It's like that right there. It's like I'm gonna tap out at that point. Be like, you're telling me I have to wait 3 weeks to play as the character that I want to play as, or I could spend real life money to do it. Yeah. I was not okay with that aspect, but I do like what EA is doing now. And you know what? I'm actually more inclined to get this game now.
Yeah, and I think people who are looking at it like a wait and see kind of thing, maybe they won't be a day one adopter. That's fine, because I think just like what we saw with Friday the 13th, there are probably going to be issues when this game comes out.
Oh, definitely there's going to be issues. There's always going to be issues when you have a game on this broad scale with this many players playing at the exact same time.
And you get so much customization with the way that you can upgrade your individual characters with the cards that you unlock from the loot crates and things like that. It's going to get unbalanced at some point, and they're going to have to respond to that. So you're going to see tweaks, but I think what I would say is that everything that EA has done and everything that they've said should instill faith in you that even if maybe day one you don't feel like it's a perfect game, they're going to continue to tweak it and tune it and basically get to a point where, and maybe they never get there perfect, but get to the point where everybody feels like they're on an equal playing field, and you're not feeling like it's an unfair advantage for any one particular person. So I want to give them credit for that, and
absolutely.
I'm going to be probably going out this weekend getting this game. That's probably
of course. Like I said earlier, it's like we know we already have your money, Dork. Just slide your credit card, put in that PIN number, baby. We got exactly what you looking for.
Mm-hmm. And I like.
Let me ask you something real quick. I've seen a lot of people being like, "Oh yeah, EA doesn't want bad press around this." I've seen some people be like, "It's not EA that's worried about the bad press. It's Disney that doesn't want the bad press." Because remember, this is a Disney property in Star Wars. So, do you think there's any validity to those claims?
I don't know, man. I kind of get that, but I think I would go back to something we talked about on Tuesday, in that I feel like Disney plays a very good role with these companies that it's acquired, in that it can help with funding, it can provide some high level direction. I don't think that they would get so involved in a situation for an EA video game, a LucasArts entertainment game, that they would say, "Oh, you better make some changes here because this is making us look bad." Because I really think it's distinct enough that I don't think people tie it back to Disney.
That's a fair point.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, because when you turn this game on, again, it's not going to be like you're going to see Cinderella's castle spinning around and fireworks. Like that's not going to happen, and so it's going to feel distinct enough. It's similar in a way to a Marvel comic book. Let's say there was a particular Marvel comic book that came out that wasn't really maybe on message with a Disney kind of a family theme, and there's actually a lot of those. Disney's not going to get in the way of that, because that's a Marvel property. That's Marvel doing Marvel. Now, I think that they would have an issue if they came out and blatantly started like trashing Disney.
Well, yeah, they would definitely have an issue then.
Yeah.
What is going on? I thought everybody wanted this game. What are you doing?
Yeah, that might be a different story. It made me think of how Family Guy likes to tell basically sling mud at Fox all the time. Like if there was some kind of a property that started doing that to Disney, there might be some repercussions. But I really don't think that they're going to intervene that much. But again, Maybe I'm just naive. Maybe they do. But I do feel like they kind of let them operate on their own as their own kind of business and entity.
Yeah, that's true, and you did make that point on Tuesday. I mean, I know everybody was freaking out when the news came out that Disney had acquired Marvel. It's like, oh great, in 18 months, Donald Duck is going to be on the Avengers. That hasn't happened,
Yeah.
and Disney is smart enough to realize, this thing that we just spent all that money on, you know what it's doing? Making us money.
Yeah.
So let's just get out of the way and let it make us money.
Yep, exactly. In fact, let's give them the resources they need to be successful.
Exactly.
And support them, and then we will reap the benefits. They're making an investment, is what they're doing. So anyway, no, I really don't think it's that. I really don't.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to throw that out there because it's like I guess I could see that Disney is like, you sons of are making me look bad. You got to get out there and make me some money. But at the same time, it's like Disney, like you said, Disney is smart enough to realize we put the money into this, we put these people in place, let them do their thing, and we're going to get our money back.
Yeah, and they're not cash poor. They're not.
No,
They're
no.
not,
Like we're like 3 months away from Disney owning like all of your childhood. So
Yeah.
so just
It's
prepare
coming.
everybody.
It's coming.
We're going to be owned by Mickey Mouse and Google and Apple when it's all said and done.
And frankly, I'm okay with it.
Yes, and I, for one, welcome our mouse over.
All right. Well, we're running a bit out of time today, but I do want to wrap up because there's another big release happening on November 17th. It's not all video games this week. You might have heard of this movie. We might have talked about it a little bit here and there, and it is finally upon us. Justice League will be in the theaters this week.
Yes, the Just Us League.
With no Superman.
Nope. No Superman at all. He's not going to show up. So Matt's definitely not going to see it until it comes out on Redbox. You lying liar. I so wish I was on that show because I would have been like, dude, that is such edit bullshit.
Yeah.
like really, dude.
I don't know if he believes the things that he says sometimes, but
Well, it does make for good podcasting.
it does
so.
make for good podcasting. I think he really would. I think he would be in a situation where he would go see the movie, but he'd be sitting there with like a grimace on his face until the very end when he finally.
What would be like the horse in Ren and Stimpy? No,
Yeah.
sir, I don't like it. Don't like it at all.
He'd give them their money, but it would be under protest. Yeah. But early reviews are coming in already from people who are getting to see the early screenings here on a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night. And so far, so good. I mean, no reason to worry. I think you mentioned earlier we were talking about if you want to make a little comparison to, what we saw with Ron Howard taking over for the Solo movie. We kind of wondered how much Zack Snyder would be in this film and how much Joss Whedon. And apparently, you've heard so far that the percentage of Joss Whedon is actually relatively small.
Yeah, I was surprised. This is a comicbookresource.com story, and they're citing ABC. They spoke with producer Charlie Roven, and he was asked like just how much of this film is a quote Zack Snyder film or a feel rather to a Joss Whedon production, and he said about 80 to 85% of the movie was originally shot, and that there's only so much you can do with the 15 to 20% of the movie that wasn't shot. And even the cast agreed, like they felt like even when Joss came in and started directing, I mean, and he did do enough rewrites that he earned himself a writing credit on this movie. So Joss did come in, lift the hood up and mess with some parts, but at the same time, they still feel like this is quote true to Zack's vision. So I'm interested to see how it does play out. And it's like you talk about the early reviews that are out there, and they're positive. They're mostly positive, and that makes me feel good as a fan because you and I and everybody else, like 2 weeks before Batman versus Superman came out, the word was already out there that this is not a good movie,
Yeah.
or critics just savaged it. So already in the mind of people going to see this movie, in the back of the mind is like, well, everybody says this is bad, so some people might have been predisposed to not like it. And heck, you could even say the same thing about not Justice League, Suicide Squad. When those early reviews came out, like I'll be one of them. when and admit to it, when those early reviews started to roll out, I'm like, oh no, not again, not another Batman versus Superman situation. But so far, I mean, like, reviews seem pretty thumbs up, and it's like, I really want this movie to do well. Like it's the Justice League, for crying out loud. Come on.
Yeah. I'm hoping so too. I'm definitely in the Batman camp. I think it's been pretty obvious I'm not a Ben Affleck guy, but that's okay. I still love my Batman movies, and I'm going to be excited to see him make another appearance on the big screen. I'm excited to see The Flash. I can't wait to see what Momoa does as Aquaman, and Gal Gadot just really, come on. What else do you need to say?
She's literally the best.
She is.
Love Gal.
Yeah. I'm cautious about Cyborg because I just don't know. I mean,
that right there, I think, is going to be like a big deal if they can pull off Cyborg. Because I mean, Cyborg, like going back to the Brian Michael Bendis conversation we had in Marvel, how he elevated characters like Luke Cage to be a top guy. If I'm going to use a wrestling term, Cyborg here recently has been elevated from being a dude on the Teen Titans to standing shoulder to shoulder, toe to toe with Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, like the who's who in DC. And this is a character that is practically all CG.
Yeah.
Like they have somebody playing him. I think his name is Ray Fisher. I'm really sorry if that's not who he is or I got his name wrong. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's a cartoon. He's a graphic in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's probably mostly motion capture, I would say, and it's going to look kind of weird because you do have all of the other individuals in the costumes, doing live action. So that's it worries me a little bit because sometimes too much CGI pulls me out a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you guys talked Tuesday when Matt was talking about rewatching Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
that Ares fight, it can kind of take you out of the rest of the movie just because it does just go so balls to the wall with the CG and stuff like that.
Well, it felt so different than the rest of the movie. And I realized it was an epic moment, and it was really kind of her coming into her own and realizing she basically can stand toe to toe with gods because she is the god, basically.
The weapon was inside you.
The weapon was inside her. Yeah. The call was coming from inside the house. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I understand why it had to be so big and crazy, but at the same time, it really, the movie would have been great without it. So I want to get super excited about it, and I just haven't been at all. And I'm hoping that I go in there and it just blows me away when I see it. That's what I want. And
I think that's a very good frame of mind to go in with.
Yeah, I'm going to go in with low expectations and
cautiously low expectations, maybe.
Yes. maybe learning from past experiences because I really
shame on me.
Exactly. Because I really do feel like going into it, I've seen BVS, so I am going to kind of go into it with that mentality of this movie. It's almost basically kind of, I think in my mind, and maybe it's not fair, but I have kind of framed it up like a sequel to BVS.
I mean, it kind of is. I mean, especially with the way DC Cinematic has really just like shotgunned this entire connected universe. I mean, this is a sequel to BVS. I mean, no, I wouldn't consider Wonder Woman a sequel. That's a legit standalone. But I mean, it kind of does feel like it's going to pick up shortly after the events of Batman versus Superman. Hold on, I actually just read a spoiler. Justice League ends. Part 1 at least, when we find out Steppenwolf's mom is named Martha too. So sorry, I didn't want to spoil that, but I figured you would want to know it from us.
Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that with the audience.
Yeah. Remember, John Cena is in the movie. We broke that earlier.
But you just won't see him. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you don't see him though, but he's there.
Actually, the reason that I was kind of so measured in what I was saying there is because I think I was having a realization, and that's really why I have the mentality that I do about this movie. I didn't like BVS that much, and this is a sequel in my mind to that movie. So
that would make sense.
Yeah, so I think that really is why I feel this way. So surprise me. That's surprise.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step over your well thought out.
No.
Point.
No, you're good. I was having a realization moment just like Wonder Woman did at the end of her movie. Now I've got to go fight Ares, so...
You realize the knowledge was in you the entire time.
Excuse me while I go fight this Greek god.
Exactly, and this weird guitar riff is going to come out of nowhere.
All right, man. I think that should do it for today. So before you get in on your roll and close us out, I do want to say you can find us in a lot of different places, my friends. You can find us on Twitter at nerd_news_cafe. You can find us on Facebook on our fan page. We have a website, nerdnewscafe.com. We have a email, nerdnewscafe@gmail.com. And I'm telling you that 1-800 number's coming. It's a coming. Just wait.
Hot damn. Cannot wait to record that voicemail.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
You'll be, and he will be nude.
What do you mean will be?
And I'm at the
cruise.
Croots.
Here, but I do want to plug Matt's podcast, Tracking Trek Podcast. They have just hit the mid-season finale, which I really hate the fact that mid-season finales are a thing, but they are. There's nothing we can do about it except embrace it and watch it. But check that out. That's chugging along. You can find that on Twitter. I don't remember the Twitter handle. Sorry, Matt. So just Google
Tracking
it.
Trek Pod.
There we go. That thing. Edit it to make me sound like I'm not an.
I'll do it right over top. Tracking Trek Pod.
You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Landoz, LANDOZ. That is where you can find the latest musings from me. Now 280 characters at a time because, Twitter decided to just break the entire format. So once again, there's not much we can do with it except roll with it. I do run a website, buttmunchchips.com, buttmunchchips.
Sit on your butt and munch.
Look at that. You got to do the whole tag all by yourself this time. That is where you can find the exclusively posted Game of Thrones talk, a.k.a. GOT Talk, where myself and Hunter Reese break down each episode of Season 7 of HBO's award-winning series Game of Thrones in lieu of new episodes of Game of Thrones talk because, we can't talk about shows that haven't happened. We do have the Butt Munch Chips Variety Pack. I've been teasing it, and it is coming. We are going to have a Ragnaroked out podcast of Thor Ragnarok posting shortly. It's going to be recorded this weekend, but I might be like, hey, do we want to push it back a little bit so we can talk about Ragnarok and Justice League, or do we want to make that 2 podcasts? I don't know what's going to happen, so you're going to have to head to buttmunchchips.com to find that out, or follow me on Twitter, or do both. Hey, how about it?
Those are nice teases. I appreciate that. Hey, before we go, let me really quickly mention that we did put out a Twitter poll last week. We don't have one this week, but I want to at least wrap up the poll that we put out for last week. So the question was, based on the Regal's variable pricing, was that going to change your behavior as it related to like a blockbuster film? Are you gonna go out still day one and go see it, or are you going to maybe wait a few weeks until the price maybe comes down a little bit, or are you going to go full Johnny Depp and turn pirate on this thing?
Yarg.
Yeah, 67% said I'll wait a few weeks. 33% are joining up for the crew of the Black Pearl. So
they're heading to Pirate Bay.
That's right, heading to Tortuga. Yeah. So
Yarg, I'd be speaking with a Southern accent.
So appreciate you guys reaching out, responding to that poll. Andrew, give you a shout. You basically trashed this one. I think you're probably one of our pirates. Dumbest, greediest idea move ever. I'd be okay with dropping prices after 2 bad weeks, but not from the get-go. And the missus brought up a good point. This is his missus. Could end up blacklisting directors, producers, writers. So
that's a really good point that I didn't even think of. Good on Andrew for bringing that up.
Yeah. And then we got a response, too, from Vol4.life. I'm just going to assume that you're a Vol fan, so shout out to you.
Hashtag groomers.
Yeah. So
it's happening this time, all the way from magical Christmas land, where all your dreams come true.
So Blade Runner, he said Blade Runner, he's there. Star Wars, he's there. Thor, when he gets around to it. So yeah, that's kind of my approach too, man. There's going to be certain titles. I assume you're a man. Sorry, you might be a woe man. Certain titles, I'm still gonna be there day one. Other ones, I'll give it a few weeks, let the price come down a bit. So we're on the same page. All right, we can end it now.
Let me ask you: did the results of the poll kind of surprise you? I mean, obviously the majority shook out to we'll wait and see, but and then a third of the audience that voted said they're just going to straight up torrent it. Not a single person said they're going to be there opening night. Does that surprise you?
I don't think so, because I definitely feel. I feel like if you were in the camp like me, then you would have said I'll wait a few weeks, because you're not going to go opening night to everything, and maybe I should have had a fourth option that said it depends on the title. and maybe that would have changed our responses a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. We got no votes for that. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, like stone cold silence on that.
Yeah.
So Regal Movies, if you're listening, abandon your terrible idea.
Ditch it.
So for the absent Matt Weaver and the currently here Justin Krutzinger, my name is Landon Doe. We thank you for joining us on another edition of Nerd News Cafe. Stir it up. We've been Nerd News. You've been great. Literally, good night.
Good night.